So official.
Yes, so official. Please first stand for the pledge and the moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. So we were hoping to have Lieutenant Butterfield here from Peoria County, but we haven't heard back from him. So I sent an email out again today. So hopefully we'll hear back from him. Everybody should have a copy of the August 3rd minutes. I know they've been read and scoured.
Exceptionally well written.
Exceptionally well.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
A motion by Johnson. A motion by Johnson. Second by Weaver. All in favor? Signal by saying aye. Opposed, saying. Minutes are approved. I like that because everybody's here. I'll do roll call. As long as it's not a vote, So everybody should also have a copy of the treasurer's report in front of them. Very extensive work. And some kudos have to go to Lori for everything that she's doing with all the different budgets. Me and Brian talked to this today, and I didn't realize there were so many actual accounts she was actually doing at once. Now that we've got the MFT, the general, the water, and everything else, and we got the BDD and the TIF, so those are actually all being run as a separate book now. So she's doing quite a bit of work. So thank you, Lori. And she's loving every minute of it. Right?
Not a problem. Today was not a good day to ask that.
And is the budget, Lori, the sheet that we have, is that current?
As of July 31st.
Okay. Any questions, any concerns? A motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gardner, second by Weaver. That we do have to vote on. Yeah.
Do we don't have to roll call that, do we?
The treasurer's report?
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, forgive.
Yeah, so, second by Weaver. Roll call it. Gardner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Sidak,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
and Weaver.
Yes.
That brings us up to the engineer's report. Brandon, what do you got for us, sir?
Not a whole lot. Pursuant to the agenda there, we've been beating on these guys, Brian, and I just finally got a text late this afternoon from the powers that be, and they don't like to be pushed, of course, and with weather delays, they never want to lock anything down. But we've been told in September before Labor Day, so that's the first, second, or third. So 2 weeks, I think, is about when we're at, right?
Yeah, I think what I'll tell the guys is somewhere in the first 2 weeks of September, just kind of make sure that we're safe.
Yeah, and we'll continue to coordinate with them. And I can, again, I promised you I'd send that out. I just got it literally on the car on the way back.
Yeah, no problem.
But I can email that out to the crew tomorrow morning if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you just send it to me? I don't.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want them to plan hard for those first 3 days and then have it not happen. So I'll just tell them the first couple of weeks of September.
That's absolutely fair and probably a smart thing to do. I don't know what the weather looks like either. I think it's supposed to be fair for the next couple of days anyway, but you never know. So that's the answer to that. So we are on their radar here for, like you said, early September. I don't have anything else unless somebody asks questions.
I'll just add the patch or the crack filling is scheduled to begin next Monday, hopefully. The spray patching's done. The sidewalk was postponed because of the contractor, and then we just got the date on this. So the MFG program is moving forward.
Okay. We have anything else for Brandon? No.
I don't have anything else. Thank you, Brandon.
Brandon, if
Thank you.
you don't have anything else or need to say for anything else, you're more than free to go, sir.
I do have a project I'm working on, so I'm going to take advantage of that. I appreciate it. Hope you all have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Bye.
Michael, what do you got on the attorney's report, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A handful of things tonight. First, there's been some talk, and it's related to an action item for tonight, about leasing some municipal real estate to the coffee can across the street so that they can construct a parking lot for their employees. There's essentially 3 ways the village can go about this in terms of the duration of the lease. The easiest being a 2-year or less lease. We don't need to jump through any hurdles of passing an ordinance, which would require a 2/3 vote, actually, of the trustees holding office. And depending on how long the lease would be, it would also require public notice. So what Brian and I have talked about is perhaps the easiest option, which is authorizing somebody on the agenda. It's for Brian as village administrator to enter into municipal leases of real estate for terms less than 2 years. We can also, and this can be discussed when that comes, add some terms and conditions to that lease, such as if we want to require any additional spots for public parking, not just for their employees. We can build that into the lease. Maintenance too. We can sort of freewheel some conditions and terms into that lease. But the easiest option, and perhaps the best right now, because we don't know how it's going to play out, is a short-term lease. Doesn't take an ordinance. Brian could go and enter into the lease himself. And then another issue is there's been...
Before we leave that, just to give some history, we're talking about the strip of ground that runs along the kind of copper-colored fence that's over there now. It's made out of the shipping container material.
It's right behind Danny Pearson and, what's her name? Anyway, it's behind the first
Two houses
Yeah,
behind
Mindy
Coffee
Burger.
Can.
Yeah.
So for those of you who aren't around, the history is that used to just be kind of a ditch, and then those folks' backyards, and they had some fences there, and it was a swamp. And some of it was to Gully's advantage. He was able to move dirt there and kind of got the neighbors' approval, leveled out their yards, put in a brand new fence for them, all that stuff. But from the fence to the road is our property, and Ron would like to use it for his employee parking along there, so he doesn't have to use any of the rest of it. He can use it all for customer parking. When we first started looking at it, we looked at selling it. We looked at just
Vacating.
us putting signs up that said for business use only, all kinds of different options if in order to accommodate it. And then we don't have to accommodate it. At the end of the day, that's you guys' decision. But then we talked about this lease idea where we could, and again, we would have to build the parameters of it. So if you all say tonight, yeah, that's something that we want to look at, then I'll spend the attorney dollars to sit and craft something that says this is what we want the lease to look like. In my mind, it would be a minimum of pave it. Maybe he's already done 3 slots down that way, and maybe pave the rest of it, maintain it, whatever else for the next 2 years, and then we'll give you the lease of it. And then in my mind, the reason I like that is if people are violating it and parking there, it's not ours. It's not our violation to deal with. It's his as the business to deal with. And then long term, his goal is, whether he's got the money to do it or not, is to put a building like that right to the left, because he owns that house to the left. And then we already talked about the possibility of dead ending that street, and then he would have kind of. And I don't know if we would sell him that property or whatever, or lease it to him again. I don't know. But then he would have the 2 buildings and then kind of that road as kind of a common area between the 2 long term, which would make this lease obsolete, right? Because it would be in that same center common area property. So in 2 years, we wouldn't have to necessarily even renew this lease. So, I don't know, thoughts on that? Is it something you want us to explore?
Yeah, sounds good.
And on that score, he's also already put up a privacy fence, a pretty big privacy fence. I think that'll go a long way.
Well, that was one thing we had to do. Is if I remember right in the conversation with Bill, we had to put a fence on the far end.
Correct, yeah.
Segmenting as at a parking lot. So on the far end, so at the end of it, who's the second house in?
Mindy Burger.
Okay, so where that fence ends, where his current privacy fence ends, there would need to be a fence that extends out, kind of separating the property, and so it's actually a parking lot. It's not just a strip of land, but it's been segmented and labeled as a parking lot, which then allows us the opportunity to lease. So that would be one of the things that would have to be in the leases. He would have to put that fence up,
Right,
or whatever barrier.
it's already almost done too. The privacy fence is pretty long as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on it? Second issue, there was some talk about possibly selling municipal personal property. It was a lawnmower to an employee. As far as I can tell, there's no problems with that. I don't think it's going to take an ordinance. I think we could just authorize somebody with the village to go ahead and make that sale. And I don't think the fact that the buyer is an employee is going to affect it. I don't think we need to jump through any hoops with publishing a notice or putting it out for bids, anything like that. No advertising.
So that's the deck. It's not actually a full mower. It's like the deck that gets pulled behind one of the tractors that they said we haven't used. We were going to trade in actually when we were looking at getting
The PTO deck.
the skid steer loader. Tom came to me and said he would pay us the value. We can check the value of it, but he told me that when we were trading it in, we were getting $500 or $600 for it, something like that. And he said he'd be willing to pay that if we would sell it to him. So I'm assuming if we're okay with that, we'd have to draw up a resolution or something for the next meeting to vote on, or
Probably not even, no.
We probably just need to draw up a contract for
Probably just a
sale.
contract for sale, yeah. I think so. I don't think the board.
so I didn't have to vote anything.
Not that I recall.
Well, does anybody have any reservations about us doing that? If it's not getting used, it's
It's been sitting down there forever.
okay.
Yeah, I'm a move since I'm on board.
Yeah, as long as we have a contract that's sold as is, no warranties.
Okay.
I think we have to throw a warranty on. That'd be nice.
I'll have to circle back on that question, Brian, about whether the board needs to take an action, because I know the statute does say something about the corporate authorities need to determine that the personal property is no longer useful or necessary.
Well, maybe at a minimum, what we can do is bring back the contract. I don't know. You tell me what. I don't want to.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
I just got to look into whether or not a formal action needs to be taken.
Thank you.
Next item is that all-encompassing annexation memorandum that Brian and his team have been working on. My office has been working on it. The person who's been pretty much I delegated the authority to in my office was out of town the last 2 days, so she's been coordinating with Tri-County to figure out some of these discrepancies and some of these pins. I think they were parent parcels originally and then spliced off into child parcels and it's got all messed up. So Tri-County had some questions about that. So when she's back in office tomorrow, she'll try to work on that and hopefully get something final for Brian to review and then take in to record.
So the end game is we have something that we record that then says everything that's been annexed or pre-annexed. That way, if anybody buys any property, they've got it, they know about it. And then we take that, once we all agree, Tri-County, us and everybody all agree, and Verna and Fred, the information they gave us, and I'm going to have them redo this map over here so we've got a fresh map of what's been annexed and pre-annexed, and then we've got it all in one spot. And then make sure the process moving forward is that we stay current.
And the memorandum is for any new buyer who someone would sell their property, correct? So that they know that they already are under a pre-annex agreement. So,
And they can see the terms of the agreement. Sometimes I get built in special provisions. The last thing I wanted to bring up was, I guess there's been some disconnect between the village and the Park District on their Hannah City Days parade that's going on, specifically in terms of who needed to get IDOT approval. There's an IDOT permit that they would have to get for the parade because a portion of it's going to run on Route 116, which is an IDOT road. I was talking to Jessica with the Park District. I was talking to various personnel at IDOT. It sounds like the village is going to need to adopt a resolution and submit that with IDOT as part of its permit application. And accompanying that resolution needs to be an insurance policy showing coverage is maintained for $1 million per person or $2 million in the aggregate. So I think first we should probably decide which body, Park District versus Village, is going to be providing the insurance policy.
When you talked to her today, did they say they had it?
No, she directed me to the president of the Park District, and when I called him, I didn't get an answer.
So we don't even know whether they have liability.
We don't. Yeah, I imagine they have some liability coverage, but I don't know if it meets those amounts. I'm pretty confident that the villages would.
I can tell you that any parade that we've had, I have never had to provide insurance.
Have any of those parades?
Yeah, that part doesn't sound familiar for any time we've done it.
Above 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got the okay from IDOT.
Yeah.
They sent us they showed us the letter that we got.
Did they? We didn't actually get the okay from IDOT. And didn't the Park District do that?
Yeah, I've never had
That's
to
what I
You weren't
provide.
involved other than saying it
Yeah.
was okay.
Because we're not
That's
putting it
the Park
on, so
District
why would
thing.
we, you know?
Our insurance wouldn't agree to that.
Okay.
yeah, most of the time it's always been the Park District or
Yeah, I don't know how our insurance would
Fire.
be. Yeah, exactly, because it's not our events. I don't know how our insurance would even cover anybody.
The organizers or the sponsors.
Yeah.
But she sent us a letter from IDOT that said that the board, and I'm assuming, I can't remember if it said the village board,
I think it did.
had a
Resolution
passed, and based upon that resolution, they were granting us permission to do it.
Uh-huh.
So I've seen an actual IDOT letter.
That's weird because it's not our right of way and it's not our parade.
11 years ago.
We don't have any maintenance agreement on it.
The message I was getting from the Park District was that this had always been handled by the village in the past.
2010.
All we
Maybe
did
Fred did it,
was
but
close the
Maybe.
road.
So it's been a while. This is 2010.
Village of Hannah City permission.
Well, I can pull the resolution.
And it wasn't even our parade.
It should be in.
I think the village just agreed
Must have done it.
to allow the road to close.
It's not our decision. I could close that, could detour traffic whenever they wanted to. It's not our road.
So here's the options we have. Are they saying when you talk to them, does the village board have to have a resolution, or can the Park District do it?
IDOT couldn't answer that question for me. They weren't sure if it needs to be a resolution of the Park District versus Village Board.
Because the news gets worse because we don't have it on this agenda and we don't have another meeting before the 28th. So
Right.
we would have to have a special called meeting next week to vote on this.
And the Park District doesn't have a meeting either before this parade. Their last meeting was yesterday.
They could have a special call meeting.
So one option
Yeah,
is
probably
to
should.
go to them and say, we give you you have our permission, but you need to work with IDOT and get your insurance and do all that.
Does IDOT know this is not a village? It's the Hannah City Park District, which is a separate taxing body.
They know.
Okay.
You know, but that's why they also couldn't really answer my question of who needs
Well, and
to-
they probably want to work with the municipality instead of a park district.
could be.
Well, the park district is a,
The park
I mean,
district
just an
wasn't
entity.
even formed back then.
oh yeah,
Yeah, they
11 years ago you probably didn't have it, did you?
No, it wasn't.
that's right.
It was
What had
part of
to do
Hannah
with-
City.
You what? Yeah,
It was still part of Hannah City.
that's a good.
I've known Hannah City a lot of years.
That's a good. Yeah, so the park district didn't exist back then. They weren't an entity.
So,
Now they're a taxing entity, they're a taxing body. They exist. So I would.
I do think the onus, and I think the highway code puts the onus on the park district as the applicant, organizer,
Yeah.
sponsor of this. I think they just missed that or assumed that the village board was going to be
Back in
handling that.
11, that would have been the that wouldn't have even been the park district that put that on. That would have been the firemen.
Hannah City days,
Yeah.
Heritage Days or something.
Heritage days.
Or was there a Heritage Days committee besides the park, besides the firemen? Yeah.
I'm sure that
I'm wondering if IDOT's wondering if it's the Parks Department of like Hannah City, if they're confused that they don't think the Hannah City Park District is a standalone entity and they think it's like the Parks Department of Hannah City. Like they're their own entity with their own board and their own tax levy. They're not, you know.
I'm trying to think of when they did form. It could have been right around that time.
So I thought.
So do we need to though do the resolution like we did for the?
Well, I think what I'm
Fire.
hearing is you guys correct me, I won't put words in your mouth, but I think what I'm hearing is your preference is for us to go back to the park district and say you need to run this trap line yourself and see if you can.
They need to go hammer to home to IDOT that they're putting it on with their own entity. Because I don't think what's our insurance going to do if something happens? Like, was it your parade? No. Was it your road? No.
We're not
What are we liable for?
Well, some of the roads are.
Of course, Main Street.
But this is not ours. The rest of them are pretty easy. But providing IDOT with anything isn't going to do any good because we're not putting on the parade. I was just afraid if we run down the road for us, we're going to hamper the park districts because we're going to take up time they should be. You know what I mean? I don't think we're going to get anywhere by trying to proceed on their behalf except chew up time that they could have used to get this done.
I don't understand why they're saying and wanting all of this now when this has been going on every year except for last year.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't they be doing the same thing they did 2 years ago?
They didn't
Yeah.
do one 2 years ago
Well, is it the same?
because they only had the firemen's thing.
I remember one year I was on the board, they did a parade on the highway.
They did.
Yeah.
Every
I
year
can't
they
remember
did
what-
for
worked on it.
Heritage Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Is it
remember
the
the
same
band
route?
walked on the.
Always.
I think who'd you talk to at IDOT in Peoria?
Anna Gadina, I think she's more in charge of road closures. And then I got referred to somebody who's in charge of permits. And I called him this afternoon. I didn't get an answer, but I left him a message. Same thing with the Park District Board President. I had to leave him a message.
The problem is IDOT's still working from home and only in the office part-time too, so nothing happens very fast.
Okay.
And everything is disjointed. And if they don't have a state phone, which nobody has a state phone hardly at IDOT, they're not going to call you from home because they can't.
Okay.
It's a work call, so communication with them is almost exclusively email unless you catch the time they're in the office randomly.
I think I was given some cell numbers.
Oh, were
for
you
some of the
really?
contacts, yeah.
Okay.
And that's how I was able to.
Some of them that deal with the permits and stuff may have been given phones because otherwise they couldn't do business. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
I would tell the park district they need to call and emphasize the fact that it's their parade, they're their own taxing body.
And if IDOT's saying they need to get a permit for 116,
Yeah.
they'll need to hold a special meeting, I guess, and pass a
Yeah.
resolution. That's IDOT's procedures, I guess. And
You're comfortable with that?
I'd be fine with that. Yeah. I mean,
Everybody's comfortable with that approach.
Yeah.
Might reach out to Mona too, see if she remembers anything.
Yeah, maybe she remembers the person she talked to that knows that. I mean,
Because
sometimes you dance around IDOT getting
Fred
referred and you
did.
don't hit that person that knows.
something, but I don't ever remember us as board.
passing a resolution.
Yeah, having a resolution.
I thought we just got permission to do it between certain times and that was it. Yeah.
Given the very temporary nature of this parade,
I mean, minutes. That's when it's close.
I don't think they're going to be on 116 for more than 15, 20 minutes.
No.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I'll take the responsibility of following up with her tomorrow.
With Jessica?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
And letting her know I'll copy you on the note.
That's fine with me.
We'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah, and that's all I had on those four things, but I can answer any other questions.
Any other questions for the attorney? Thank you, Michael. Committee reports, finance?
Skip it.
Damn it. I was trying to do that. I tried
If you want me to not
trying to
talk
make
about
this
it, I'm
short.
good. We can go. We can just mark that bad boy out and move on.
Okay, administrative report.
All right, so you've in your packet, you've got the normal summary of highlights. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I just talk about the telecommunications tax letters. We got those done. Lori and Tracy did a nice job of tracking down who all the telecom people were, tracking down the addresses for every street, the address ranges for every street, and I wrote a letter and we sent that out. So that's done. I have met with EMS again, and it looks like they're still in process of trying to figure out their due diligence, but they told me probably this was a week ago, another 3 weeks or so, about the possibility of wanting to buy the Public Works property. And so they'll let me know when they get to that point. Lori did a nice job of updating the liquor license with the new information on it and the food truck application. And so those both are done and on the website. So thank you, Lori, for that. I did mail out annexation incentive letters to the 2 properties we had discussed, and I did get modest interest from one of them. And we're working on gathering some data to help them understand what that might look like. So if you have any questions on any of that stuff, that's all I was going to cover. Then you've also got in your deck the report for, I guess we're basically at the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year. So would that be May, June, and July? Yeah. So if you look at the first page and you look at the slides, the second slide down, these are the core funds. So follow the center column down. That's the most important, income over expense. We had income of 110, higher than budget of 81. Expenses of 77, which is lower than budget of 116. And so we were positive for the month of 33,047. So we had a good July. So 110 of income over 77 expenses equals that 33,047 for the month. If you look at slide 3, you can see that all of the core funds were positive. General was really strong. Water was even positive. Sewer was positive. Sanitation. So everything was positive for the month of July. So that's good news. Then we've got the breakouts of MFT, TIF, and BDD. And again, just follow the actual center column down so you see income over expense. And if we were positive or negative, it just gives you a breakdown of where we stand for the month for each of those. The BDD dollars continue to be strong, so that's good news. Then if you look at year-to-date, page 3, the top slide, number 7. So our year-to-date actual is income was 362, 161, expenses were 237, 280. So through the first 3 months, we're almost $125,000 to the good. So again, the finances I think continue to be strong. If you look at the core funds then for year-to-date July, first quarter, you can see that general was $91,000 positive. Everything's positive with the exception of water. And that water expense was, again, we chipped away again at it, but the reason we're over were those 2 engineering costs that we had, those one-time only engineering costs, which begs the question, do we have all of our costs put into our rates? But we did. I don't want to steal your thunder, but we are working on getting our rates analyzed. MFT, again, we haven't spent much money yet, but we're to the positive by 24,000. Year-to-date TIF positive by almost 2,400. Year-to-date BDD positive almost 26,000. So again, the numbers all look good. It's all positive. The cash summary, again, if you're reminded, I'm comparing us to year-end last year. So if you look at the first 3 months, so we finished the year-end last year 1.316,259 in total cash. And we're at 1.494,163 now, so we're up 177,904 in terms of money in the bank. Some of that is liquid, meaning it's available to be spent. We have an earmark that or allocated it. And so we're up $147,000 on the liquid cash and only $30,000 on the designated cash. I did have to make one adjustment. I'll speak to it on the next slide. You see the last bullet, it says year-to-date cash flow positive. I had to make a correction to the liquid versus designated. I made the mistake of seeing an account that said general, and I assumed it was just general money that we pulled out of the general account and we put into a CD in order to gather more money with it, but it was actually a Rails to Trails budget. So I was educated on that. So I moved it from the, didn't change total cash. It just changed how much of it was liquid and how much of it was designated. So I made that adjustment this month. But July positive 33,000, year to date positive 125,000. All accounts, all P&Ls are positive for the month and year to date, with the exception of water. So I don't feel like it gets much better than that. Yes, ma'am.
Deanna and I talked a little bit yesterday about how the TIF and the BDD are going. So as the BDD is building funds, and really the only thing that gets paid out of BDD is legal fees, how does the BDD, how do we start paying back the general? You know, I know there's that initial due from the BDD to the general, but how was there in that original agreement of how that's going to get paid back to the general? Do the auditors tell me, hey, do this journal?
I don't think that was a payback on that, because that was the cost to start up the BDD, and we had to pay it out of general.
Yeah,
It's all reimbursable by the
it is, but that would be so what we did, if I remember correctly, the decision we made was that we were going to have this community and economic development council that would be made up of somebody from each representative from each of the taxing bodies, 2 people from this board, and then we were trying to get 2 at large, which we were having difficulty finding. And at the end of the day, any funds that are in TIF and BDD, those folks have the opportunity to share how they would. They're an advisory group. They can say this is how we would like to see them spent. This group can take their advice or not take their advice, but at the end of the day, we can choose to spend them however we want with their advice. One option would be is to pay back that to do to from, or if we choose not to do that, that would be a decision this group could make and say, we don't want to pay that back, we want to forgive it. But that would be a decision, I think, for this group to make. And again, just kind of speaking off the top of my head, because the rest of the financials are doing so well, forgiveness of that might be an option. Now, maybe it's not the right option. You all would have to decide that. But at the end of the day, those dollars can either be used to pay back general, or they can eventually be used to do projects within the TIF and BDD to further the economic development of the community. And so the question would be, is where is the best way to use that capital? Is it to pay back the general, or is the general healthy enough to where we would rather use those dollars to spend it on economic development projects? Infrastructure, yeah, that's right.
I think that's one of the things we talked about.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I do believe from an auditor standpoint, as we would have to do one of 2 things. We would either have to forgive it, and I don't know what that mechanism looks like, but I think we would have to say we were forgiving it so it doesn't have to be paid back, or we would have to pay it back. Otherwise, the auditors are going to wave a flag there and say, what's going on?
So the TIF money has to be spent for improvements in the TIF district. Is the BDD limited where that money can be spent? It can be spent outside the BDD.
Yeah.
I haven't answered.
As long as it's like.
It's not even limited to being spent in the TIF. It's its own separate thing we did.
Right.
The BDD can be spent anywhere on anything, I think, correct?
It can, I believe so, yes. Now, I don't know the answer whether it can be spent outside of the BDD, but I believe it can. But I think there's limitations on the type of projects. So I think the one thing I do know is the TIF money can't be spent on vertical construction.
Yeah.
Only BDD dollars can be spent on vertical construction.
If you're in a development agreement with someone, they can't be reimbursed for vertical construction.
To Rod's point, I think we can spend BDD money as long as it benefits, and we all agree, if we can do a sewer project or we can do a road project.
Anywhere in town, I think even outside the TIF, because the BDD is just basically the commercial area, correct?
Yeah, the BDD has nothing to do with the TIF.
I don't even think that.
But there is actually a BDD map.
Coincidentally got started at the same time.
That's just for those districts.
Yeah.
That district.
Who's paying the extra 1% sales tax? I don't even think the BDD money is subject to I think that advisory panel was for the TIF money. Like if we set up some program where people, on how to spend the TIF, I think the BDD's
Free and clear.
I think we need to pull it away from the TIF. I think it's more of a pure, to do project money. I don't think it's beholden to anything the TIF is. We started them at the same time, but I don't think it's really married to
right,
it.
no.
Yeah.
If you look at, and that money, I mean, we're gonna in a year's time, we're gonna make somewhere between 80 and
That's why I was questioning.
$100,000.
What are we doing with this? This is just going to sit there in this BDD fund?
It's doing like
It
what,
needs
9 a
to
month
be doing
roughly?
something.
9 to 10 a month.
9 to 10 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll start, we're gonna have to start looking at some projects.
At the end of 1 year, you can start looking at a small project.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be smaller
It
things
could
or
even be one of
equipment.
those things where it's voted on at a later time or whatever, where percentages of that, this percentage is going towards this sort of a project, this percentage is going towards new business development,
Right.
and split it out that way, so that at least it's got
A home to go to.
right a home to go to, and it's not just sitting there. I mean, we developed the business district to make the money. Now what are we going to do with that money? Just sitting there and not doing anything. That's not really what we wanted it for.
But there's not enough there right now to get excited
Yeah, but
about.
if it keeps up like this, within a year, it will be.
Yeah, and it's consistent. One nice thing about the VDD is it's super consistent because, that's on the sales
And I
tax
know we
there.
got to see how it's going, because this is new.
It won't
So
be
you gotta see
hard.
how it's going
One thing
first.
is, if we get the water tower built eventually, one thing we will have no shortage of is fixing water main, replacing water main, because it will expose every flaw in the system out there.
Mhm.
That is looming. So, like you said, maybe planning to divide it somewhere. If that water tower thing turns into a water main account, and stays there, it probably would be a bad idea to have cash on there because obviously you'll kind of meter your pressures up, but you will find all your weak spots.
And I do like Deanna's forethought point, though, which is
Yeah,
it would
let's
be
think
good
about
for
it.
us to have some sort of strategic discussion over, are we better off increasing the amount of parking in town, or are we better off saving it for infrastructure projects? Do we have enough? Is the operating budget generating enough cash now that we've got money to do infrastructure projects? Should we increase the amount we're taking out of operating and put aside for sewer and water and roads because we're operating at a surplus? I mean, those are some. Do we want to pay off debt early? I mean, those are some decisions that we got the IEPA loan. So do we want to pay that off before we get the
New
water tower loan? I mean, I don't know.
I don't even know what's left on there.
I think there's a valid point
Yeah.
about having some sort of proactive discussion about.
Help want to counteract a new one to pay for a water tower, so it's minimal. That's going to
Mhm.
just part of it's going to be permanently diverted into paying that down, so you don't feel the sting out of the general fund.
I think IEPA is in the high 200s.
Oh, really? That's lower than I thought. Then
200,000 left.
And what's the interest rate? It's not high, right? Like 1.5 or something.
it's
So it's less than that.
That's lower than I thought the balance was. Honestly,
I thought it was like.
So paying off debt might not. I mean, if we're not paying that much interest, that may not be.
But can we use BDD for that?
I don't see why. I don't know.
I would think so. It's infrastructure, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's infrastructure expense for sure.
The question is that the right decision, right? I think that's
Yeah.
your point is
Yeah.
how do you, we need to weigh all of these
Yeah,
options.
what's the most important thing first?
298,000.
So obviously the biggest thing looming is the tower and then everything associated with the water. The only thing the water system's ever had, at least I know in recent history, is just repairs when they have a break. And we know that we're plagued by small mains at the edge of town. Even if someone wanted to expand at the edge of town and build some houses, there's some areas that'd be challenging with the size of mains that,
The 5-year road plan's funded, and we're going to hit every road. So I feel like those dollars are there. I think sewer might be a problem, and then water mains is definitely because I don't think we have any money.
Sidewalks are definitely a problem.
What?
Sidewalks are definitely a problem.
Now some of that's in the MFT as well, and not all are though. That's just a portion of them,
yeah, nothing major. It's just spot
and no new.
repair here and there,
Just some thoughts to think
No,
about.
good thoughts.
Very good thought.
We probably just spent 20 years of that BDD. In about a minute and a half.
Oh, you do that.
But at $100,000 a year, you can start,
I guess the good news is financially, you all have laid a good foundation and invested in some things that are starting to pay dividends, and we're having good discussions about having dollars to do some things with. So
yeah, we can keep our infrastructure to a point it doesn't. Certain line you cross, then you can never come back. And that's when southern municipalities have had to sell off infrastructure like water and sewer. And once you cross that line, you can take you a century to crawl out of it if you ever do. I mean, you just can't come out of it. The funding's not there, you just can't do it. So if we stay on top of it like we are, then, we can beat that trend of people losing their own infrastructure.
Facilities.
would water mains be your biggest concern? Water mains and sewers?
Yeah, definitely.
I think so too.
Probably starting at the tower and spreading out from there. I mean,
Because that's a ton of money, right? I mean, if you were going to redo all the water mains and their extra sewers, I mean, what the original IPA loan was how much?
1.3, wasn't it?
Because if you're replacing water mains, you're replacing roads too.
Yeah, because we probably have some that run right down the center of the road. There's water valves right in the center line of the road. So
Well, in Farmington, because the Illinois American took over, and every time they fix something, 2 things break someplace else.
yeah, well,
In
same thing.
another part of town, not
Farmington's
even
got
there.
aging water mains. I
Right.
mean, they got to the point with their water system, they were in a hole they could never get out of, and so they were forced to sell it off.
I'm just saying, when you
Yeah.
fix something,
Oh,
they have said.
and when you
like
fix
your
something
house.
like a tower, it's going to put pressure on
Yeah.
everything around
Right.
town. So, and like Rod said, what you probably do is look at everything that's in that corridor of that road. You're going to pick a section of road, whether it be 500 feet long or something, and look and say, well, what is in this road? Because if we redo the water main, like Rod said, you're digging a trench down the center so the road's toast. So you might as well say we're going to fix everything. It's going to be new road, new water main.
That's
Look at the sewer before you build a new road, because there's no sense putting a new road over top of a sewer that's got issues. So you look at everything in that small area, because the last thing you want to do is put a new road down and then have some sewer problem and you got to patch in a brand new road 5 years later. You see that Peoria all the time, but all the utilities are disjointed. Peoria's got the roads, All American Water's got the water main. So Peoria do a road project, replace a road, and you may have a patch that goes across it because All American Water is going to replace a water main 3 years later. We have the ability, we can coordinate most everything. I mean, obviously we don't have our own gas or electricity, but the big items, sewer, water, and road, are unified underneath us, and you can plan that ahead of time and know, okay, if I want to replace this water main, I don't necessarily want to replace this road that crosses it once or twice because I have to rip up my new road again to do it. So, you have a 5-year road project, maybe now with the more money you incorporate where our water, incorporate everything into that. Let's not replace this road because we think this water main is going to be replaced. So.
The original loan was 703,102.
How much did we do? That was sewer, right? How much?
Forgiven was 181,713. So we started repaying over 20 years, 524,214.78.
So we paid back like 2 and a
So
quarter.
how big a stretch was the sewer that got fixed for 700
It was
grand?
only like three.
I thought
Wasn't
that
it
was like a
3 blocks.
A
or
third is the
something?
number I heard. A third of the sewer, a third of the mains got lined.
And so then the camera line,
Yeah, televised
and
line.
then we did some of our own joints.
So if that's true, there's another 1.5 million at least, because with inflation of the sewer
I was gonna
expenses.
say, that's not it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And we've done some manholes in the meantime. I don't know. Jim identified 6 or 10 manholes we've had lined and sealed in the meantime, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to the main lines.
It's going to be interesting to see what this RCAP rate analysis
just gonna
comes back
say.
and tells us, because it's supposed to build in future capital expenses.
Yeah.
Those Hannah City residents probably don't want to hear that.
With a
because-
town this small, with a town with the old infrastructure like this, if they're incorporated in, it'll be,
doesn't mean we have to do it.
exactly.
does that also incorporate with us putting the new water tower in?
They said they could plug it in or leave it. They'll have one that plugs it in and one that doesn't.
Okay. They need to know, make sure that they know what the.
But if I remember
Higher
right,
pressures
we
and
ran
everything.
some rough numbers, and the tower, if we just put it right into the rates, it was $8 a month.
It wasn't crazy.
$8 to $10 a month for every. I mean,
That's
that's still
still
that you're paying
10%.
what 40
Yeah.
now. That's still 20, another 25% increase or whatever on your.
Yeah, but you're talking, there's a town close to here that had what, $80 or $100 minimum water bill per month for over a decade because of probably mismanagement of billing and stuff. So I mean, in the grand, I mean, it's not like a sickening number. I mean, you don't want to do it because we had a good run, but
The other thing that's
know.
interesting, and one quarter doesn't a year make, but if we wind up with a surplus of $400,000 to $600,000, we keep on the run rate we're on for the full year, right? If you look at our financials, then we've got another $500,000 or $600,000 that we could be allocating to our funds for. We could increase the amount we put into each of those funds every month.
yeah.
So we're starting to move forward, which would help us on the infrastructure side, which maybe frees us up for BDD dollars to do more economic development. I don't know. We could talk forever.
Yeah.
Well, we've got, we did the lagoon project already. I mean, I don't know if they're looking at any new aerators going in there.
Yeah. Just for planning, I guess you have a 5-year road plan, but think then about incorporating what's the sewer and what's the water in that corridor.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, those are big numbers, though. I mean, you're
Like Jim, the biggest thing would be Jim, I'm sure he could point out in 2 minutes on a map where the water mains are constantly repairing over the last 10 years. He could probably point out that's an issue, that, real quick, could probably identify his hit list of 3 that he would be like, I'd replace those first.
throw on top of it if we sell the public works property and we have to put a new building out at Lagoon. I mean, what we sell that for is not going to pay for the full building out there.
No.
And then we got to run utilities out there.
That shouldn't be too big a deal, though.
Anyway,
But yeah.
a lot of things. The old adage is true that there's always problems, and some are better than
See, you
others.
started DM.
I just wanted to know a journal.
I just wanted to know what we were doing with this money.
Okay. Dreaming.
Yeah.
I wanted to go shopping.
Did we do finance? We didn't do finance.
Yeah, we did do environment.
Did you already do your?
No. We got it.
No, that was still on.
It was still
Came out of the.
But that basically was it. I don't have anything except for to say it's been nice working with you guys. This is my last night. I'm done.
Thank you for.
There's,
So we didn't vote on it.
Too bad.
And how long have you been on the board, Dan?
I don't know, about 7 years.
Because you took over after Judd left, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And she was actually supposed to be done at the end of
I was
last
supposed to be
term,
done
but she agreed to
May.
stay on until we could find somebody, and we just haven't been able to find.
Yeah. When I agreed to stay on to find somebody, I thought it was going to be like a month, 2 months, not 4 months.
We're great. I did not.
Yeah, we have been looking.
You're gonna get me into that.
Well, she sits closest to you.
Yeah.
Every night he texts me, he's like, she showed up again.
I bet.
So. Can he? No, but definitely, Deanna, thank you for your service. With it being quick notice, we did not get you anything, but
Oh, I've already got stuff when we had our little party back in May. So.
okay, you did.
That's right. You were stepping down there.
Yeah, she got a plaque and flowers.
That's right. She got the stuff back then because that's when she was stepping
Yeah, she
down.
did.
I don't remember her getting a plaque.
I did.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Now we got to give her one of the stuff that
Yeah,
she did
Her and Bill.
for the 4 months. Yeah, you need a 4 month plaque. Get a little tag and put on there.
That hangs little hooks on the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I just stayed on so that Lori could still write checks if he weren't available that week.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, who's signing checks?
I have something, sorry. Myrna said that yes, they sent in the request for the parade permit, telling them when and where we wanted closures. She said there's a file, and she thinks the county provided traffic control. And she doesn't remember if IDOT got the barricades or if we used or not, or if we had enough for our own. So apparently, yes, we sent in for the parade request.
But that's before the park board, though.
So I can look into the files and see.
Yeah, well,
I'm
know if
just
we
trying
should
to
have
remember. He might have been.
And you know what? You guys might have just said yes, road closure, and Myrna and
Myrna
Brooke took
just did
care of everything.
Yeah. I'm curious if something ever will happen though, and they came back like, oh, what you're.
Well,
afraid
I
of?"
don't
No.
know that they requested insurance or not. I don't know.
That part I do not remember.
So,
Unless
I mean,
it just
I'll
got
look in the
handled
files.
behind the scenes by
Fred Murray.
Fred sent him something.
Thing is,
I
we were
mean,
put
I-
on a parade. Did anybody ever ask, is this your parade?
I don't think I ever knew fully what was going on. I would really hammer them and make sure they understand the details and why we would request
Well,
it.
we'll look in the file, see what's there, but
Yeah.
I think our course of action remains the same. Let's
Yeah.
talk to the park district first, and then we'll help if we need to.
Yeah, because they're.
Yeah.
So back on the other subject.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Deanna, for your
You're welcome.
service. Thank you for staying on. I know you guys want to start traveling and
Yeah.
have some fun, so we won't hold
Follow
you
you
any
guys
longer
around.
than we need to. Todd, you want to travel, don't you?
Yeah, we're selling the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fully mobile all the time then?
Yep.
Really? Nice.
We're gonna domicile probably Florida. You know, I mean, just.
Oh, have a spot you can park long term.
No, just domicile. We'll just, that's where we'll say we live, so we don't have to pay taxes and stuff.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. I see what you mean.
You're gonna live in an RV.
We're living in a fifth wheel. It's pretty much an apartment on wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty mine.
Yeah, it's not. It's. Yeah.
It's bigger than.
Probably
It's
a
bigger than
nicer
a couple
kitchen
apartments
is what I got at the house.
It's better than a couple studio apartments I lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first apartment we had was it had green shag carpeting in the kitchen. So yeah, it was $125 a month. A long time ago.
My first apartment, the bed was also the table. Seriously, you fold it down like this, and there's the bed.
Oh,
And you
geez.
fold the table up, and it was just the bed again. So. Oh.
So we need 2 spots filled.
So yeah, if you know anybody that wants to buy a house,
$5.
Shouldn't have a hard time selling it.
no, it's
Okay.
gonna be a little more than $5.
Where do you live? I don't even know where you live.
111 Llewellyn. It's a cul-de-sac, and it's a good place to raise kids. I raised 4 of them there, so
Nice.
safe place.
Okay, so, well, we're up on you. Sanitary?
Yeah, nothing that I know of.
Okay. Streets? Alleys?
Yeah, I got nothing. I think sidewalks are trying to get done first week in September. But I think we're shooting for the end of this month.
We were, the contractors pushed out, so we're right in line with everybody else. There was something that you brought up today. Somebody asked a question about striping.
Yeah, Cindy and them from Gills, we were up there at supper last week, and he asked me if what would be the chance of getting Main restriped. Is it starting to get pretty faded again up there? Because she took care of the other 2 lots, you know, the warehouse and the back, the public parking and everything, which is really our property too. But she
Yeah, I think I think Gills may have striped the
well,
public
they
lots a couple
they
times.
seal coated them and they striped them.
Oh, seriously? I knew they striped them at one time at their own expense. I didn't realize they also.
Yeah.
So who does that work?
I can check a couple different places. I'll get some pricing.
Okay.
Is it? Does the parking lot there between the post office and church need it too? I wonder.
Probably.
Yeah.
I
I
can't
mean,
remember
if we're
the
gonna
last
do
time.
it-
I can't remember the last time we did
I'll
the church.
check
that
out
lot.
Yeah.
church.
Thank you, Rod.
See if I can get some estimates on it.
That's it.
Other than that, I got nothing.
Okay, police and planning?
Here we go.
I have nothing.
No, I sent you some email. I sent you some email.
Oh, well, it's a little late for that.
We didn't read them.
I have nothing.
Nothing that's, okay. Water, McPherson.
Got a few things. First, we'll go over our numbers here. Have a total of 4 checks for the escrow refunds, $275. We have 15 total shutoffs for the amount of $3,013.35. Level pay plan is 0. And let's see, 4 foreclosures for $511.93. And gallons sold, 2,529,957. Got all this?
Yeah, but I wrote it wrong. Say it again.
Which one? The last one?
Here, 2,000,000.
529.
I added it there. I'm like, okay, I got too many numbers. All right, thank you.
Now I really feel like Fred. I always help him run out with the numbers.
Looking at it going, I got too many numbers.
We've also got Jim usually goes once a year to the the Illinois Water Operations Conference, and we have to approve him going to that. But from what Brian was looking up, we don't usually have an amount that we have to approve. I guess we just approve it.
Yeah. Normally,
And all customary.
Yeah. And normally we just approve his. Normally you'd approve his conference costs, and then normally we just mention that we would pay customary expenses, travel and hotel and meals.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to pay for the conference cost and all of the
Customary.
all of the customary costs that go along with it.
And how much is that conference?
We don't know.
Oh,
No, the conference itself.
225
Yeah, it was like
is
220.
the conference fee. Hotel was, I don't know.
It's probably all a level you could approve without a vote. I bet it's under $500. It might be.
We actually went back and looked at the minutes, and in the past there was no dollar amounts in there. It was just,
normally we get that renewal ahead of time and we approve that, and then if anybody's going, we just do the customary expenses. So
Yeah. Second.
So motion by Pearson, second by Johnson. Any further questions? Roll call it. Johnson,
Yes.
Sidak,
yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Hubengarner.
Yes,
And carries.
This is a good
thought
one.
about it.
A couple other things. We got all of the information submitted to, as we were just talking about, the RCAP, the group who's going to look for all of the leaks and get us the numbers on the water tower and all that stuff. So we got everything to them. We're just waiting to hear back from them. And then we heard from Illinois American, one of their levels for the PFAS, it's some chemical that's one of the several that's in the water, is at a level that is either at or above their guidance suggested by the EPA. So we basically reached out and said, what should we do? And they said, just wait for now. Because you said you were even going to...
We were going to prepare a communication to the community and everything, but they told us to hold up, and so we're waiting to hear from them.
PFAS isn't that the foam they use for?
I think it's similar to, or in the chemical for what they spray for fires, if I remember correctly.
So how did that get in our water?
It's an Illinois Americans one.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a
So
general
it's-
allowance for it. It's just now it's a little over that allowance.
Yeah. I think it is the old, I think it's not the current foam they use, but I think the old foam they used to use is one of those chemicals they found out that's like forever. It takes, so the stuff that's been put in the environment's there for a long time before it goes away. It just takes decades and decades to work itself out. It's just there at a certain level for a long time.
Like uranium.
Arsenic is in our water. Yeah, have you not ever looked at one of those before?
No, don't.
With all, what all the chemicals are?
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at when they sent me this.
That's like looking at the ingredients in a hot dog.
They buy a building over here.
No, I use
And
Evian
it
for
was
that.
from,
Did RCAP give us a time frame when they would have that back?
I'm trying to remember what he
Which is the
said
same place.
originally.
You've
I
got
think
the
he
same
might
water
say a
every
few
time.
weeks or something before they're able to come out and start running all the tests. But it wasn't all that long, but
Okay.
there wasn't a certain
So
time.
it'll be a couple weeks before they even come out and do
Yeah, I mean, I'm
anything.
guessing it'll be a month or better before we actually see data, but maybe.
Depends on how busy they are, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he said like probably 2 weeks after they get the information, but who knows what that time frame is now. That's all I've got.
Okay. Buildings ground.
So I do have a couple items that did not make it onto the agenda. We talked about the mower deck already. It's great to hear that we don't have to go through this whole complicated bidding process apparently, which I was originally led to believe. Second item, it is my understanding that in the past, Buildings and Grounds trustee has helped facilitate basically like a rabies clinic put on by Big Hollow Vets. I've been asked to do that again, and basically it's just they pick a time, pick a day, people bring in their animals. They have things like a rabies vaccine, distemper, heartworm testing, feline leukemia. It just says feline leukemia. I don't know if they're testing for it or not, but just rabies is the main hot ticket item. I have actually spoken with a couple of people outside of Hannah City that actually said they might be interested in something like this because apparently the prices are really good.
Normally,
$15.
yeah. Normally, seems like every year, normally we just open up the
Maintenance.
maintenance building down there and set up a couple tables and, you know, some of the bigger animals, they won't get out of the cars, but the vets will, you know, once they're done filling out the paperwork, the vets will walk them over and give them their shots. And
Right, so
Like the
does
cows.
that sound like something the village wants to put its name on again? Last time we did this was in 2019.
And I have a question for just you two because I did find something in the file and there was an insurance rider issued to us for that clinic. So I guess we'll need to look into that also because I don't know if
Yeah.
it was Big Hollow or if it's something else.
it's pretty much always been big.
No, I meant who does the insurance rider.
We didn't.
So I'll need it's attached to the file.
It's probably the
There is-
liability and it's got Big Hollow.
Okay. I didn't really look at it, but now that you guys said about the Hannah City Park District, now I'm questioning it.
Yeah, maybe they provide proof of,
So
like a CLI and list us as also insured or something like that, probably.
do we need to vote on a date or anything, or can we just pick a date?
No, he can work with them and then,
They can give
Yeah.
us a date.
That's all I'm saying.
because it's at no cost, so we don't need to vote on it.
The only other thing I would say it'd be important to talk to Roger and those guys to make sure that they know what day it's going to happen, so that right in that we were talking about using that building down there.
Set the use.
Which building?
The
The
maintenance
maintenance building on Hannah.
Streets building.
The public,
Yeah.
Make sure they don't have
probably-
anything planned. Or
Yeah, because those guys never came in because Bill had a key.
Yeah, he probably went and unlocked it and then went and locked it when they were done.
Yep, I did the same thing. I normally sat down there with them when I was building the grounds.
Got your rabies shot.
I get it twice a year. It's so bad.
You're foaming the other day though.
Yeah.
In addition, our Swings Day, it's like September 20th. I noticed in the minutes, talked about how we advertised it on the village website. Have we advertised it anywhere else?
Shopper.
Shop.
Chopper doesn't exist.
I missed the
I put it
shopper.
on Facebook, Hannah City Happenings.
Okay.
I have the date, what's the date
I
of
guess we could post,
because I had a note
we could
to
post for Journal Star.
post it.
Cleanup day is
For
slated for
cleanup days?
September
Yeah.
The Journal Star?
Yeah, so
I don't
the
wouldn't do
first
that.
week,
I don't think enough people,
I'll
we're
put
gonna
the
give them 20 people.
actual, limitations.
I think last
out
time we
there,
had cleanup days, they said that
just because
it was like
Normal
regular
trash
day.
day.
Yeah.
before
Not
then,
this year.
and people would
I don't think
forget.
so.
I got to clean out the
Well,
garage.
It's a year.
I already did that, and I just put it out in the garbage, and they took it all.
I've never had them refuse.
Yeah, I've never had them refuse
So
anything.
how do we feel about maybe putting some flyers in local businesses like Casey's or Laundromat? I can take care of that.
Also talk to Julie at Gills. See if she put something up there, because there's a lot of people that come in there.
Right.
Post office.
Because my thought process is, at least I'm not checking the village website every day for new updates from the board. But if I'm coming to Laundromat, do my laundry, then have a cleanup day. Might be a good way to reach people.
Might put it up at Gills on their bulletin board.
Right.
Warehouse.
You go to the village website.
Everywhere.
Never.
I'm offended.
The park district has a Facebook page if you wanted them to post it, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
now? They never used to.
Yeah, they've got a Facebook page.
They do now? Because it wasn't working for years.
Yeah, I pulled it up
Oh, their
earlier. It was
website.
Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't know.
You look like a big TikTok guy.
Oh, I do a lot of TikTok. My TikTok's happening all the time.
So anything else, Zach?
No, that's it. Just in-house keeping stuff.
Okay. So, under other business, as we talked earlier about authorizing Brian to make a lease of the I can't talk tonight. Municipal real property not exceeding 2 years. Everybody knows what this is. It's the property on First Street on the left-hand side of the coffee can, on the west side of First Street, behind the first two residential properties there. So
So if they're leasing it, they're paying us rent.
Or,
Build that into the lease agreement.
yeah, or services,
services, yeah.
maintaining it or paving it or whatever. We would have to, what I would do is if you approve this, then we'll put together some sort of agreement and bring it back and let you guys look at it and say, yeah, do that or don't do that. And if you have thoughts of what you want in the agreement, let me know.
They pay legal fees, haven't at least drawn it.
yeah, that's what I like.
I mean, we should come out at a minimum of that cost of zero. If they're gonna take care of the maintenance of it, then
What about asking them to pave the rest of it?
do what?
Asking them to pave the rest of it.
I'm gonna be steep for 2 years. They might balk at that.
What is there now, rock or?
It's white
Oh,
rock.
yeah, White Rock.
I mean, he went ahead and he's paved like 3 parking spots down already.
Right next to the building there, hadn't he?
Well, even down in that little stretch we're talking about.
Oh,
Like right
gotcha.
behind Danny's. I think
Yeah.
he had leftover concrete
Oh, so they just put it out there.
because they had plenty of trucks over there.
But I don't mind asking them to. They can always say no, and then we pull it out.
Finish it to make it uniform.
Looking forward to something.
Put up the wall, pay the legal
Oh, for
fees,
sure, yeah.
maintain it.
Yeah,
Okay. We can do that.
starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Those things are the
Those are
basics.
definitely.
Yeah. Be creative.
So do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we authorize Brian to negotiate for a lease for the parking spots.
Okay.
I have a motion by Johnson, second by Sidak. Any further discussion? So who's next?
Do we have to vote? We have to roll call it?
It's decided.
Okay. So, Sidak,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
I was waiting for that. Johnson.
Yes.
Get one no.
That's what I was waiting for.
Still got another vote.
Then we got a letter from the Hannah City Park District asking us to sponsor them for their trivia nights, holiday bazaar, food trucks, inflatables and stuff for the Hannah City Days. Is anybody interested in doing that?
Well, it's just a yearly sponsorship in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not just for anything and everything.
Right, that's why I said.
Have we done it in the past?
Yes.
We did? We probably did 1,000 in the past
I think so.
to get a banner?
Yeah.
Did we?
Oh, I don't know that they had a banner, but
Oh.
yeah.
Do you know what we have
Voice
left in
kind of
community
did
funds?
that.
Can we put whatever we want on the banner? Can we put like fog hat on the banner?
Probably Fog Hat sponsored in the city park. Maybe have other people to sponsor if we put some famous name up there like Fog Hat's behind it, I'm behind it. Where do I sign up? I base my major life decisions on fog hats.
Brian does.
Would have been a slow ride.
I'm in.
Slow ride.
Exactly. Fog hats in, I'm in.
Make a motion to donate $1,000.
Second.
Motion by Weaver, second by Johnson. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Which fund would this money?
Comes out of the general community projects. And we have about 3,000 left in that account.
Easy.
Easy peasy. Good. Any further questions? Okay. So we'll roll call it. Pearson,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Sidak.
What'd you get on that one, dude?
No.
Lori, you should pick one of the
I
other
should
ones.
have said
Megan
no, I
know
want
and
to donate
send in the
10,000.
check.
Oh, there you go. Well, we do everything backwards here anyway. We discuss it for 10 minutes, and then we make a motion in second, which should come first, even open discussion.
Robert rules.
But we never follow the actual rules of order. All of that should come after the second. Do what?
They're just guidelines.
Yeah. Robert rules and guidelines.
That's by their guidelines.
The other board I sit on for the state surveyors, we have an old man that's there, and you start 10 seconds into the discussion, be like, well, we don't even have a motion or a second, don't know what everybody's talking about. Okay, motions. I mean, he's like,
We go by the fog hat rule.
yeah, fuck, I rules of order.
Take it easy.
So anything else anybody needs to bring before the board?
I need to make one correction on what I was talking about with the mower deck and how to go about that. I was wrong. It does take an ordinance if we're going to sell it. What would take an ordinance is trading it in for like a down payment on something similar. Selling it to the employee will actually take an ordinance, a simple majority vote, and that's it.
But we can just prepare that for the next meeting.
We could, yeah. Okay. We wouldn't need to put a price term or anything in that ordinance. I think the ordinance would just be authorizing somebody, who could be Brian again, to enter into this contract for sale.
Is there any other items laying around that we would throw onto it? Because a lot of times, I mean,
I thought we already passed an ordinance to do that.
I think we passed one at one time to trade it in on.
yeah, because
Then we ended up not doing that.
Because we're looking at getting that skid steer.
Yeah.
we were
And I
trading.
thought it was.
Was it selling?
Miscellaneous.
Oh, that's
and
right.
stuff?
Because we sold some old printers or gave them to the church or something.
Oh, so
and
you're
some-
saying we might not have to pass an ordinance? We've already done so.
I was thinking that we did.
That'd be
Because
great.
we
So
we haven't had a
authorize
copy.
some village official
Yeah.
to make the sale.
Probably within the last couple.
I can
Well,
look back at ordinances.
Didn't we authorize Fred to sell, was it items off the house that we bought or something too? Was that
Yeah.
at the same time?
We also sold the other administrator his laptop.
Yeah,
Kyle.
we did.
Kyle.
But we didn't. Did
We
you
did
vote
that
on
with
each of
special
those?
ordinance, I think.
Yeah.
I thought that's an ordinance.
Yeah, that did.
Laptop.
We did have a vote on that laptop. There's no way to have like a standing ordinance to sell miscellaneous
Blanket.
items, is there?
No.
I don't.
I really
Well,
wish.
could you do something like if it's under 1,000 that the city administrator can enter into all
I'll have a
contracts?
freaking garage.
Yeah,
sale.
really.
That'll be fun. Lemonade stand out front, all that
Well, I mean, we have done it before. It's been a lot of items. If we are, if there is stuff that guys want to get rid of and sell, then we got to throw it on this and just clean house while we're past the ordinance.
Exactly.
Because last time it was like everything on the house. The time before that it was like printer, computers, random stuff, miscellaneous items. I mean, there's anything else that they don't use anymore that we were going to trade in that we want to take sealed, you know, I don't know. Just,
That TV.
yeah, the TV in the corner. That's, I tell you, the option you're going to get nobody will take
I
it up.
think you have to pay to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they charge $10 for CRTs now.
That's right.
I thought Farmington takes them.
So, are we asking for a general ordinance to sell everything? Or we have,
He's gonna look in.
I have to see if we can do like a blanket ordinance. Maybe there's like.
or see if we have one. I'll
threshold.
search the motion spreadsheet to
I
see.
think Denise was
Okay,
going
you're gonna do that? Okay, great.
See if we had something already.
Yeah.
Cool. But in the past, if they
Zach,
were
can you
specific,
get with
they're not.
Roger and see if they have any excess equipment down there that they don't have?
I know one of them did not list every item we got rid of. It was a very general, because it was like random office stuff in an old printer. We didn't list every item we got rid of. It was a very general blanketed one to cover. I don't know. I covered some office items, I know, but I know it was something that nobody was going to go itemize everything they were looking at. That was a long time ago.
Certain things like that mower deck is on the insurance, so
It is.
yes.
So
I would like to know, so I can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an added benefit.
Yeah, and that's why I'm gonna have Zach get with them, because if we got stuff in surplus, any other equipment.
Because we were gonna, when we traded for that skid steer, we're gonna just clean everything out that we weren't possibly using. Just anything they would give us $1 for, we were giving to them. So if there's something else from that list that is just sitting around, then let's get rid of it at the same time.
Yeah.
See if Tom will take it too.
Telephone.
Bring a trailer, Tom.
We got telephones.
I can take care of that for you on the way out if you like me to.
You take those at
Expensive
Farmington?
phones.
The trash bag. Along with that TV. As long as you put it in a big black trash bag.
Take it to Goodwill.
I don't even know if they'll
To
take
penalize
it.
them.
When you drop it off, they gotta take it. At night.
They really take those if you drop them off.
At night.
Can we take your truck?
Like the recycling dumpster outside.
Well, actually, I can stop the cameras.
We have video surveillance of the mayor of the city, right?
Yeah.
Somebody can call the news.
I'm inching towards the button to stop.
Okay, next board meeting is September 7th, 2021, and we will be short one Miss Deanna Hoopengartner. We want to thank you again.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
You've been a huge help.
Stop recording.